Today on this program we're going to find out about diabetes, which is a subject we should all know a little bit more about, and I have the great pleasure of talking to an old friend of mine, Raymond Crowe, who's an unusualist and very well known around the world because of the YouTube clip of his shadow hand puppets. I'll get him to explain it all, but right now here's Janice.
Thank you, Malcolm. Fiona Benton, General Manager of Diabetes SA, and Michael Porter, Credentialed Diabetes Educator, are with me. Welcome to the program. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thanks for having us.
I actually don't know a lot about diabetes. I know that there are different types, diabetes 1 and diabetes 2. Is there another one?
And gestational diabetes.
That's right. And it amazed me when I read some information about this, just the different age groups, how it affects people. Could you just fill me in a little on that?
Well, there are several types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes generally affects younger adults and younger children. So 50% of those diagnosed with type 1 are in that younger age bracket. But type 1 diabetes also affects people in the older age bracket as well, so adults and older adults as well. Type 2 diabetes tends to affect more mature aged people. Yeah. However, we are finding that more younger people are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Is
one worse than the other, or are they just different types?
I think they all share the common symptoms, right, and complications, of course. So it's not easier to manage one or the other.
No.
So there isn't one worse than the other, I suppose.
No. So now you've come into it from a different field, Michael. What were you doing before?
Oh, I was doing Aboriginal health, yeah, where diabetes is a lot more common, predominantly because of the genetic makeup, right, and genes. So it's made me a little bit more aware of all the complications and prevention strategies that we focus a lot on, a lot of our energy on here at Diabetes SA.
Yeah, but this now for you, then you're covering a broader scope.
Yes, obviously. Of course. I joined Diabetes SA because a little bit more exciting, I suppose, where I look up to people with type 1 diabetes, gestational, and generally we're dealing with a lot more complex issues as well. So.
We were talking before too. It's a dietary. Well, it's a balance of how we have our lifestyle, isn't it, as to how it affects us.
More so with type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, there are certain risk factors for type 2 diabetes, so it might be genetics, it may be a family history, and it's also linked to our lifestyle as well. So you're right, it's related to our diet and more of our sedentary lifestyle as well.
And so are the treatment's getting easier, or has it been the same for some time? What's happening with regarding the treatment?
Depends on the type of diabetes. So type 1 diabetes, that occurs when the pancreas doesn't produce any insulin anymore. Yeah. So insulin's a hormone that's needed to move glucose from the blood into the cells where it can be used, where the glucose can be used for energy. So because that person doesn't produce their own insulin anymore, then the person's dependent on insulin injections or insulin via a pump. Type 2 diabetes may be, in some cases, people may need to be treated with insulin. More often, people are treated with diet and an exercise regime and maybe some oral medications. Yeah. Type 2 diabetes is a progressive condition, so people will often end up going onto insulin therapy as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 50% within 10 years who are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes will require some form of insulin. Insulin's a hormone, and we describe it as a hormone replacement, right, almost, because that's really what we're trying to do, is just address that balance with insulin and glucose.
Okay. And is it a treatment that you have to do morning and night? How often do you have to use this treatment? Is it invasive, or is it something that's quite easy?
No, it's dependent. It's very personalised, and that's what diabetes is. It's so individualised, where something that might work for somebody might not work for another, but predominantly you might start off with diet and exercise. Can't manage the sugar levels, they're getting out of control. Then oral hypoglycemic agents or medication that will help for a while, because it's a quite progressive type 2 diabetes over a period of time, and then you might need insulin. You'll start off with a basal insulin or background insulin.
Okay.
And then mealtime insulin if required.
So how often are you monitored then? Is this something that you have to see somebody on a regular basis?
Sure, you do need to see a team of health professionals, so it depends on the type of diabetes again. So if you have type 2 diabetes, you may be managed by your general practitioner, and usually a credentialed diabetes educator, a dietitian, an exercise physiologist, and a podiatrist. So there's a whole team of health professionals involved with the person's management or their care.
Okay.
Type 1 diabetes, there's usually an endocrinologist, that's a specialist doctor dealing with diabetes, and the same allied health professionals, so the podiatrist, exercise physiologist, dietitian, etc., and of course the GP. So there is quite a large team of healthcare professionals involved.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
But also the third type, I did know somebody that had this, had never suffered before, but became pregnant. And through her pregnancy, she had diabetes, but then once she'd had the child, she was fine again. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gestational diabetes. It's diabetes during pregnancy, and it normally occurs in the third trimester. You know, roughly around about weeks 26, 28 onwards there. Just becoming pregnant makes you insulin resistant. Insulin's job is to get the sugar out of the bloodstream. So the placenta, the hormones that the placenta releases just actually just makes that insulin resistance just a little bit worse.
Right.
So overcoming that insulin resistance, quite often it's a little bit too much for some young people. If they have a mother who's had type 2 diabetes or father, or it's in the family, that genetic makeup really plays a big part as well. But it's it does, you're right, once postpartum or post-delivery, the diabetes will disappear. Just miraculously as it appeared. However, it's really important that they check every 12 months to 2 years to check, make sure, because they're at high risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So we do provide an excellent service called the Gestational Diabetes Register, where we send reminder letters out for people with diabetes.
Oh, that's good to know. There's, we are looking at something on the screen. We're here to help. Diabetes SA are here to help. So just explain to me what we're looking at now.
So Diabetes SA is a non-for-profit organisation, and we provide information, products, education and support. And some of the activities that we conduct include children's camp and special activity days. So they might be cooking classes or trampolining or circus sort of activities.
Yeah,
so
lovely.
that's a great activity, so other children can get to meet their peers, other kids with diabetes. Yeah. So not only from an educational point of view, but just to create that social network.
That's great.
Diabetes SA also provide education classes, and we also put on seminars as well.
Right.
So we conduct several seminars each year. Every week we're running classes at the Hilton site, and that's for newly diagnosed people and for just refreshers classes as well. So it might be about diet, exercise, general diabetes management.
It's good to know that all that information is out there. But there's also a National Diabetes Week coming up. And can you tell us what that's about?
Sure.
Because you were telling me before, you have your own. South Australia is actually just a little bit removed from that.
So nationally, National Diabetes Week occurs from 12th to 18th of July, and in South Australia we have our own campaign. We like to raise awareness about diabetes in the community, and this year's focus is we've developed a brochure or resource, and it's just about the different types of diabetes. So there is a lot of confusion in the community about the different types. So what is type 1, type 2, and gestational?
I'm not now.
And so we've also have an AusD risk tool, which is a national resource, and that's to determine people's risk of type 2 diabetes. So, we're encouraging people to actually assess their own risk, and by completing a survey they can determine whether they're in a high or low risk group that they'd go on to develop diabetes in the next 5 years or so.
Okay, so do you suggest then if somebody has the machine to do their own blood pressure and they find that their blood pressure has been too high on more than one occasion, that then they would go and get that checked?
I mean, high blood pressure, obviously it is a precursor to diabetes. However, it's if you've got high blood pressure, hopefully you're getting managed and treated by your doctor.
Yeah.
But ordinarily, you won't be testing your blood glucose levels or pricking your finger unless you've been diagnosed with diabetes. So really, it's regular screening, and that's why the OSD risk tool is excellent for that. It's clean.
Good.
You know.
That's. Well, if you want any more information, the information is on your screen at the moment. So if you have any queries, please contact the numbers that you see there or the email address and look for this, the National Diabetes Week coming up. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Great information. Please stay with us because coming up is The Unusualist.
And welcome back to our time. You know, I've waited for a long time to have our next guest on the program because he's a good friend and we've known each other since, oh, well, we'll find that out. Raymond Crowe, welcome.
Welcome. Hi, Harry, Malcolm.
It's all right. It's all right. Now, isn't that interesting how close friends often have nicknames for each other?
Yeah.
And I always call you Raymond, but that's what you work under now anyway.
That's
and you always call me Harry. Yes, well, it's helpful. Now, we have known each other for a long time because of a common interest in illusion and magic. How did it begin for you?
Just as a kid, I liked puppetry, magic, ventriloquism.
Did you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Don't touch me.
Oh, sorry. And,
Sorry, I should have done the thing for you.
That's right. And I just did it as a hobby. When I was at school, I used to write to a mutual friend of ours, Gene Raymond. He'd write back. He was a magician in South Australia. A wonderful sleight of hand performance.
He was, wasn't he?
And then eventually I got a day job. Fixing
answering machines.
Telephone answering machines and photocopiers.
And that's when we first officially met. Yeah. But through Gene Raymond, just talking about Gene, Gene was a lovely, lovely man who looked like he was magic, didn't he? Yeah. He had curly hair, combed back, a little moustache. He had great sleight of hand ability and he worked with pigeons that would appear magically out of nowhere. And I saw him first as a kid at the age of 4 and that kindled my interest in magic. And I didn't find out that it was actually him until many years later. But I used to produce a TV show here in Adelaide called the Channel 9ers, and Gene used to appear on the show. And I said to Gene, is there a young guy who's interested in doing magic? And he recommended you. And I rang you, and you were 14 at the time. I remember this so well. And you said, I don't think I'm ready to do television yet. And I've had to wait until you're this age to actually
prove the point. I'm still not ready to
No, not at all. But I remember meeting, I even remember what you were wearing the first time I officially met you. And it was funny, you know, when good friends just have that rapport together. And I remember the first time I met you, we talked for about an hour and you'd come in to do a class or something. But anyway, so since then, though, amazing things have happened for you.
Yeah.
So in a way, let's cut to more recently. You've done, people will probably know Ray because of the shadow.
Little hand shadows to What a Wonderful World. Yeah.
That went viral on the internet and that took you to some interesting shows, interesting places. Where?
Late Show of David Letterman did that, which was just great. The Royal Variety Performance. And you name a country in between, I've been there and performed my little hand shadows for them. So.
But more than that, because there is a lot more to you than the hand shadows, isn't there? But you've developed from that a whole shadow piece that starts your stage piece mostly, isn't it?
Yeah, what was nice is when the hand shadows became popular, it allowed me the opportunity to experiment and do a longer show. Normally I've been performing corporate sort of cabaret, which you just do a half-hour act. And suddenly,
the general public wouldn't see.
No, you're invisible in corporate.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately.
Suddenly, so suddenly I could think a little bit more extravagant being on a stage.
But that took you all over the world, didn't it? Because I remember one morning, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. It was somebody from Las Vegas ringing to say, would you take a call from Raymond Crowe?
Don't need money, did I?
No, you're just ringing up to check out how life was at home. It was lovely. But, I mean, that's been a lovely thing to know you to do that. But then you did Australia's Got Talent a year ago.
A couple of years ago now, 2000 and... End of 2013, I think it was.
Were you on when the Fernanda brothers were on? Were you on that
Yeah,
same
I went
show?
to school with the Fernanda
Well,
brothers.
they've just done the show recently.
Well, there you go, yes,
Yep.
yes. And it was funny, I hadn't seen them since school, and they were exactly the same as they were. Whatever you saw them as here, that's what I got when I was
They were very funny.
15,
They were good.
yeah.
They were really funny in the studio. They were also on our birthday show. But apart from all of those things, it's the development of what you've been doing. It's the development of a unique style of illusion, magic, or as you call yourself now,
unusualist.
Exactly. and also the ventriloquism, because a lot of people don't really realise that you're doing this in your act. They don't really realise you're doing it because you use real people from the audience and put voices into their...
I can make you sound like a baby.
Yes, okay.
You want to sound like a baby?
I'll just do the...
Got to get him.
Close up here.
Ready?
Yeah. But what I love is the fact that you don't really... the audience is watching the person and they're saying all of this stuff in these different voices, like the other voice.
Exactly. I've got to give you nothing.
Oh, you know, okay. But over the years, you've worked a lot here in South Australia, but of course you've worked internationally and nationally. What happened with the shadow puppets? Because you did it for, was it the Helpman Awards?
The Helpman Awards in Sydney, just as a favour to a producer, and then Foxtel did it up as a email attachment and sent it out, and that's originally how it got going. Then it got onto YouTube, and it's been...
It was like in 24 hours it went viral, didn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty much. It was amazing, and it was just at the beginning of YouTube. So it's sort of. But interesting enough, the guy who co-wrote the song "What a Wonderful World," Mr. Weiss, was shown in New York, and he sent me the sheet music signed. You know, and but then there was a problem with the copyright on the music when he died, and suddenly we weren't allowed to use it on any TV show. So I lost a lot of shows that we had booked because the rights were tied up. But that's all okay now, and
because they understood that you were paying sort of a homage to the song.
Oh, you pay royalties on it when you use it.
Of course, I realise that.
But it just seemed to be a universal piece, and that was what I.
But you've changed it, and you've also been, in the most polite way, your act has been knocked off by overseas.
Oh yes, the problem becoming popular is suddenly people want to do what you do, and now with the internet, people can study acts. I suppose they used to do with video, but now it's easier, and so
probably. But
as soon as something's popular, people want to knock it off. And,
but to be the originator and the unusualist title really does set you aside.
Well, yeah, it separated me out from. Because I would ask people, how would you describe what I do? And they'd say, well, it was unusual. So I sort of took that title, and I'd only just adopted that when the Hand Shadows took off. So it was sort of, if they looked me up, it was kind of nice. They said, he's an unusualist, what's that? So that also allowed me to do ventriloquism, hand shadows, silent comedy, puppetry, anything I wanted to do. I wasn't limited to just magic or just hand shadows. So,
The other thing about you is your mime ability, which you went to a French mime. Tell me about her.
About the same time I met you, I rang up. I thought I should learn some mime as well. I'd never seen mime.
It was like traditional mime, was it? Or French mime?
Madame Zora Sembrova, and she was terrific. She died a couple of years ago, 99 years old, and I still used her as in directorial advising position right up to when she was about 93. And she was wonderful because she gave me a discipline, and that's probably why the hand shadows look as nice as they do, because they're movement-based. And
also an ongoing development with that, because I've noticed each time I see you perform that, you've put something else, like your head into it now.
Oh yeah, it's evolving. Things evolve. They don't stay still. You've got to keep just trying little things out. You know, it's nice.
So anybody that's seen it should look at it again if there's an opportunity to look at a more recent version of it.
Yeah. People still love it, and it's terrific, and I still like performing. It's the only thing I get to see in my act.
Yes,
normally with magic, you're pretending.
That's true.
You do the illusion, and you hope that you've got your angles right and it works.
Yes.
But with the hand shadows, I can actually watch it.
Yes.
And so you can feel it.
But that took you a long time to even find the right type of light to make that happen, didn't it?
Yeah. A lot of development, and that's what's interesting is people, because I was brought up with people like Jean Raymond, and the acts that I loved were traditional sort of variety vaudeville acts. And in variety, you only had 9 minutes, 12 minutes if you were lucky.
To impress, yes.
And so they were very tightly worked acts. And when I was younger, I wanted to be like a European act, you know, working at the Lido or something in Paris. But that never happened. I stayed in Australia, kept developing, finding my own style. And then a couple of years ago, I was in Rome doing a performance, and all these magicians were coming along to see the show, and they had been Lido acts, and they were just a little bit older than me, and they only had 12 minutes. And times had changed. Yep. They were no longer the handsome 21-year-old European.
But they continued to do the same 12-minute act.
They hadn't evolved.
Yeah,
and so the nice thing about living in this country is you get to do anything. You can do anything.
But you've always evolved. Yeah. You've always been working on something new. It's been a delight to actually see often the beginnings of things that you've... Like the baby.
There's lots of beginnings.
Yes. Yeah, well, no, it's been... No, but as a friend, it's been fantastic. Yeah. But you're about to go off to do something...
Yeah, I'm off to Italy, to Rimini, where we have the World Congress of Magic every 3 years, and I'm an invited guest to perform and to lecture. And so I'll be teaching a couple of my approaches to my work to them, and perform, and it's a great honour. It's really nice, and
well, I think the nice thing is that people don't always appreciate what comes out of Australia, and quite often it's the east coast of Australia where everybody thinks everyone comes from. But when you start listing off people that have come out of our city, people like yourself, who really have an international reputation, that's the important thing.
So, yeah.
And the fact that you've actually changed magic to something else. You're not a flashy, let's cut up the box and pull people apart person. You actually control the magic yourself, or the illusion or the unusualness of it all.
Yes, it's also cheaper than having big boxes and cutting people in half. So.
Yes, you can walk. You can go anywhere in the world with your act in a suitcase. Yeah. Continued good fortune with what you're doing, because it is rather special because of your uniqueness. It's just been absolutely great to have watched Ray evolve over the years. I would recommend that you either Google Raymond Crowe.
I don't think that hurts anymore, does it?
No.
And but also Malcolm,
because they'll see all the other stuff.
But also, I've got a lot to thank you for, Malcolm, and you've helped so many South Australian performers, and you will get that money back eventually.
I could tell you about the first show Ray and I ever did. I wrote a show for Ray. It was called The Outer Space Collector. It was for a shopping mall. And between the two of us, we built this spaceship about the size of a car that was all tricked up to have puffs of smoke and stuff to happen. And it was all plugged in, including music, to one single power point in the wall in a shopping mall, and somebody turned off the power. And this man was 18 maybe at the time?
Yeah, so it's about
in
18,
a costume that was purple, spangly and stuff, with ears stuck out here. And I could see the perspiration running down his face, thinking, I left fixing answering machines for this.
Yay, I thought.
Ray, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Raymond Crowe's just the most lovely man. I've known him for a very long time, and such a clever performer, and so original.
He is.
And I guess for most people, the highlight of being an original, innovative performer is that others knock you off. Knock off your act.
True. But if you do get a chance to see him, please go.
He's always touring around Australia in something. Catch him on any television program. But until next time...
Yes, until then, take care of yourself.
And keep your self nice till then.
Bye.